Welcome to Pine Tree State Restorations. And look what we have on the bench today. A 1956 Guild number 484 Spice Chest radio. Yep, you heard me right. Spice Chest radio. The Spice Chest. 1956. Got two little drawers. And this particular radio was made by the Guild Radio and Television Company out of California from the 50s. This one was made in 1956. It's a novelty radio. Beautiful radio. This one's in beautiful condition. It's the wood you got to watch out for on these. Finding one with good wood. She's dusty and dirty, but the wood is mint on this radio, and that makes all the value. They made several novelty radios, probably about a dozen of them in the 50s. The rarest one is called the Bonnet Box. I've never seen one, but that's the rarest one they make. It's a big radio, and it had a phonograph in it and everything else. Pretty cool. Guild Radio made these novelty radios, and they're very popular. They made a lot of them. The most common one was the telephone. They made the telephone radio. They made one that looked like a lamp. They made one that looked like a treasure chest. They made one that looked like a clock. The clock, the old timer, is kind of rare. It's called an old timer. It's got a grandfather clock in it and the radio down below. That one's a hard one to find. But finding the Spice Chest radio in this condition is tough. Now, a friend of mine owns an antique store in South China, Maine called the Nostalgia Store. And he bought a lady out in the state sale, and he found this radio, and I bought it from him. I got a good deal on it. I paid $50 for it. Don't care whether it works or not because we're going to fix it. So this is what it is: 1956 Guild Spice Chest radio. A lot of people put these in the kitchen. You can't really hang them on the wall because you need room for the tubes to get the heat out. It's got 5 tubes in it. Turn it around for you here. Okay. Guild Radio and Television Company. This one's in 1956 they made this. You pull these little pins out the back. They're like nails. Like a little nail. Memory serves. That one's tight. There you go. That's what it looks like. Looks like a little nail, sort of. We'll pull these out. See if we can get them out. There's 1, 2. And then that one's tight. 3. Don't mind the hand there. There we go. I will pull this down, and you'll take a look inside. That's what they call the All-American 5 chassis. She's dusty, she's dirty, she's slimy, and apparently they got screws coming up from the bottom holding the chassis in. Right here. Okay. None there. You got these little wood spacers on there. Or that whole thing might slide out of there on that board right there. I'm not sure how that comes out yet. But it looks like it's slid in to the radio. But this looks like it's dropped down a little bit. Not real sure how they did that yet. Looks like I got some. Looks like there was a possibility of some critters trying to get in that radio at one time. Thank God they didn't stay in there. But a few nuts just came out of the radio. So the radio doesn't work, and she's very, very, very dirty. We're going to have to get that out. The tuning dial, she's a little rough, a little coarse. We got to figure out. But look at how they made the little wooden post to hold the AM. And there's an antenna wire on here. And that's why they made the back panel easily removable. Somebody actually had that on backwards. It's supposed to go this way. Because you could hook up an external wire to the antenna. We'll check those connections on that coil there. But this wire you can hook on. You just push this little fast knot clip down and you pull that wire out and get a new wire on there. Because these work pretty good when you got a long wire running outside. So we got to figure out how to get that chassis out of there. I don't know if that slides out or what, but we'll have to take the knobs off the front. They're wood. They just pull off. Then we're going to pull that chassis out. And then we're going to get all that dust and dirt out of there. There's a lot of dust and dirt in there. It's 1956. And once we get that all cleaned up, we're going to figure out what's wrong with the radio. Probably electrolytics. Maybe a tube. Being that these are the smaller tubes, they might have a bad one. I don't know. I'll dig the tube tester out for you, and we will go through that process. And we'll figure out what's going on with this radio. This radio is cool because it's got a phono input right here. If you pull out the tone control on the front of the radio, you can turn on, you can hook up an old phonograph, or you could input, you possibly could input an MP3 player in this. By pulling this out, see that? That puts it in phono mode. So it's RCA jack in the back, mono, but you could make an adapter for your MP3 player and probably play it through this radio. So when you push it in, it's radio, and then it's the tone control, and then you got the volume on the left and the tuning on the right. Okay? And then these little doors, they got a little button on top, comes down from the top that holds these doors shut. Well, they don't work anymore. The reason why they don't work anymore is because this is a tube radio, and this top board gets hot from the heat coming up from the tubes, especially if you don't have any ventilation in the back. And that causes that top board to bow up ever so slightly. So these buttons that are under here, spring loaded, you see them, right? They don't hit the door anymore. So what you got to do is pull them buttons out. They're got a little flange. You pull them out, put a little spacer behind them, you put them back in, drop them down a little bit, and then it'll catch the doors. And then it's got the louvers. You can go up, close it, or you can go down on each one. So you can actually close the doors and play the music through the louvers, because the speaker's in the front, of course. But this is a 1956 Guild Radio and Television Company, novelty radio. And we're going to go through it. We're going to figure out how, like I said, I got to figure out how to get the chassis out. I'm hoping they didn't put the screws up through under here. I don't think they did, but we got to find out what's holding the chassis in there. Once we get that out, I don't see anything on the sides. Once we get that out, we're going to clean this wood up. She's dry and she's dirty. And like I say, all the knobs, they're wood. Pull them off. They come right off. They're wooden knobs. Okay. So we're going to set those up here. All right. There's the tuning dial. All dirty. We've got to clean that glass. It's like a bubble, like a thermometer. I'm going to clean that all out. And don't put any chemicals on this front panel. This front panel is like a lithograph. You don't want to put anything on there. You're just going to kind of carefully get it cleaned by a dry cloth or something. And you should put some felt washers. They never did that from the factory, but I'm going to put a felt washer behind every one of these tuning knobs, because they dig into the radio and it feels kind of crappy if they go too far. So put a felt knob on there, felt washer behind each one of them. Also help keep the dirt out of the controls, because I'm sure they're all dirty. And there's a speaker grill right there. Shows the town scene. But we're going to figure out how to get that chassis out of there, and when I do, I will be back and we will go through the radio. We got the NC173. I had to order some parts for. And we got this one here. I should have everything I need for this. I got plenty of tubes for this and plenty of capacitors for this. So I should have everything I need to fix this radio. Shouldn't have to order anything. But we won't know until we get in there and see how bad the damage is. But thank you for watching Pine Tree State Restorations and the 1956 Guild Spice Chest Radio. And we will return.